Hello once again, and welcome back to Movie Deputy Reviews, where you get the one, the only place to find reviews where movies are interrogated for their plot and content. Well, that is where I am at today, and I am very happy to say that I shone the spotlight on this movie, and just honestly, this review is going to be a little different, so I'm going to hang on. Don't give up on me yet. And of course, there's not going to be any spoilers, so don't worry about that. But we are talking about an icon, a Hollywood icon that has been around, for decades. And it's been redone many, many times. And if you haven't already guessed, we are talking about the new Superman movie. I'm not going to tell you the score right away. I'm going to get into a little bit more of the movie itself. And like I said, don't worry, no spoilers, nothing even close to spoilers. So it's just that there's a lot of details that I want to focus on. So I'm not going to necessarily say that this review will be longer than some of the other ones, but it's going to be quite in depth. So I just want you to hang on because this is going to be one heck of a ride. So I hope that you will stay with me through all of this. But before we even get into the movie, I feel it very necessary to say, and I didn't think I would ever say these words, especially in regards to a Superman movie. This movie is actually rated a PG-13, and it's right on the border of needing to be rated R. It's right on that line. And yeah, I'm really talking about the Superman movie. Believe it or not, I really am. And yeah, this one is very guilty. There are so many. This uses all the major swears except for the F-bomb at multiple points in the movie. It does show a very lot of graphic violence. I can't specifically say what happens to one of the people that this is happening to, but it just makes you wonder why they went in this direction. Now, I don't normally focus on the technicality stuff on movies, and I'm not going to this time either. But James Gunn made it a point on one of his social media accounts to basically acknowledge that this movie is supposed to be political. And it's Hollywood, so if you have to even guess which direction that goes in, maybe you haven't been paying attention. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. It really is. And so in this one, okay, we know the story that Kal-El, aka Superman, was put on a ship by his parents to escape Krypton because Krypton was dying, and so they were trying to save him, and so they sent him to Earth. And you thought you knew that story, or you thought you knew that story, right? He has his Fortress of Solitude, which is not the Fortress of Solitude in this movie. In this movie, it's called the Ice Castle. Now, that's just the tip of the iceberg, pun intended, on this one. Just, it goes so far out of everything. And in the very beginning of the movie, it tries to kind of hint at the whole idea of metahumans, and that the metahumans are the ones that have these special abilities. And we see the Justice League is also in this one to a point. Now, it's not Justice League, though. Here they call it Justice Gang. And like I said, no spoilers at all, so you don't ever have to worry about that with me. But there's a character in the Justice Gang that makes you miss the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. Now, if you're at all familiar with that movie and you know how bad it is. And so the fact that this character makes you miss that version of the character says a lot. But we also see Hawk Girl, we see Mr. Terrific, we see some other very familiar faces with that as well. But in this one, Superman is battling the hammer of boravia. I'm going to totally mispronounce that probably multiple times here. But it is the name of the country, and LexCorp has a lot to do with that. And of course, Clark Kent is still the writer with the Daily Planet, and with his alter ego being Superman, of course. And there's certain people that know that. And we see Lois Lane. So we do see her. And once again, she is his love interest. So there are certain parts of the story that are staying the same, but there is a lot of it that is different. Here we get to see Krypto, the super dog, and don't worry, like I said, I'm not spoiling anything, but there's a mid-credit bonus scene and a post-credit bonus scene if you can make it all the way through the movie. And you actually see Supergirl, and throughout the movie you see Krypto, the super dog. But in this movie, he's nothing super in any way, shape, or form. And actually, there are some things that happen to him that if you are very sensitive to anything happening to animals, then this movie will give you, it'll just send a chill down your spine just for some of the things that happen. Now, mind you, okay, I'm not going to, that's not really a spoiler to say Krypto is fine at the end. So, I mean, it's nothing like super horrible, but it's bad enough that if you're sensitive to that, it's going to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. It's going to make you uncomfortable. So I like to touch on that a little bit. In all of the other Supermans that we've seen, Clark Kent's parents in Kansas are these hardworking, well-versed. I mean, they're people who would be you would be proud to have in your community. They're just good people. And in this film, they are being portrayed as really backward hicks, just like every stereotype that you've ever seen of people that live in the South, or even some of, obviously Kansas is in the Midwest. And it basically plays on every one of those stereotypes. And I couldn't help but shake my head. And it's like, this is just one of those things that's like, but why? And this story tries so hard to be politically correct, and overly so. It also touches on the fact that Superman, okay, if you know Superman does not, I mean, he can take a licking and keep on ticking like an old Timex watch. And this one, he gets injured, he bleeds, he has dislocations of joints, he is showing that his strength is not as much as you would remembered it to be. He can still fly faster than a speeding bullet, but they don't touch on that. It just shows him flying like super fast, faster than he should be able to. But there's so many things that are kind of going on here. And as we've seen in some of the other Superman movies, he's always been like portrayed as this person that was this vigilante from outer space. And this movie kind of goes there as well. And okay, I can kind of see a little bit of that part of the story because there's been other Superman movies that have gone that way, but not to this level, not to the point where they're almost making a joke out of him and making him almost like a terrorist. But there's so much more to that that's going on. And I'm trying to think how I want to word what I want to say next without giving away something. But how that kind of fits in with, like I said, trying so hard to be politically correct. And there's things that are happening to people that that Lex Luthor disagrees with. And it mirrors so much of like a lot of the censorship that's going on today. And I will just let you take that and kind of run with it, because if I give the specifics, that would be kind of a major spoiler, and I don't want to do that to the story. But there's the torture, enhanced interrogation, there's abuse, there's just violence that you would not typically associate with a story like this. Now, with LuthorCorp and Lex Luthor, as we all know, he's the bad guy, basically. And it's just he does something, and he does something with some of Superman's DNA that also kind of reflects on like another Superman movie. If you remember, I think it's Superman 3, where you have the good Superman fighting the bad Superman. And obviously the good one wins. Well, this one, it's not quite as simple as that. Here you see two Supermen fighting, but there is a major flaw with one of them. But you've got to be able to sit through this movie to be able to figure out what that is. And unfortunately, that is not as easy as it seems. Their whole thing is brain beats brawn over and over and over. And then they find themselves asking the $78 billion question. Again, that reference would be explained if you do sit down and watch this movie. Now, it is important to add, and I try to make it a note to tell people this, even throughout some of my other reviews, that I am a constitutionalist through and through. So I try to review movies from that perspective, and I am going to be doing the same thing with this one. But you could definitely tell when people were leaving the theater, there were people that thought that this was the best Superman movie ever, that this absolutely went above and beyond. And I can say I am in the opposite camp on that. Not only personally, but critically as well. There are so many things wrong with the story, not just with what it does to the story of Superman, but in the way that it's told and how it's done, and things that are happening on the screen that you could have never imagined happening in a Superman movie. I mean, Superman is supposed to be a hero, so what is going on? And this just takes it so far over that edge, and just, I don't know, it leaves a knot in your throat, and it leaves a knot in your gut. Like, a lot of what's going on is because of the message that Kal-El, aka Superman's parents, sent along with him. And like I said, this just undoes so many of the other Superman stories. And it's done so in a very deliberate way. It is done so in a way that is meant to maybe get in and like plant that little seed of doubt in your brain for like how something is going, or how something is being told, or how something is playing out in front of you. And justice means different things to different people. And this movie just goes to show that, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg with this. So you're probably wondering where I'm at score-wise. And if you've made it this far with me, I don't want to let you down, but you might want to sit down, because I'm going to shock you with this one. I am giving this new 2025 Superman a 3.25 out of 10 on the deputy scale. There is just so much that is wrong with this on so many levels. If this was not an iconic character, if this was a completely stand-alone character, the movie might make it into the fives, maybe, but the fact that they are doing such an injustice to such an iconic character, such an iconic superhero. I mean, most little kids, girls and boys, look up to Superman and think, okay, this is so cool. I want to be big and strong. I want to do all of this. And it was not in the movie, but there's been stuff online about the whole thing of the Superman kind of usually said truth, justice, in the American way. And that's been mentioned in comics and on some of the movies and other things. There's been references to that. And there was a reference going around to the whole thing of truth, justice, and good things. And I'm just like, no. And then there was even hype about there being a Lois Lane instead of a Lois Lane. And don't worry, I'm not spoiling anything there, but we do see a Lois Lane in this version. So I'm not sure if that's something that's going to be possibly in the bonuses of the movie when it's released for in-home. But I don't know, there's so much that's going on with this one, and so much that this changes about the original story, that it is so hard to take this seriously. There were a considerable amount of people seeing this at the same time I was, because I went to the theater to see this like everybody else. And like I said, there were either people who were just almost numb from it. I think that's kind of how I was when I left the theater too. I was just like, what did I just watch? I literally found myself almost wanting to check social media mid-movie, just because it was not engaging throughout it. And I kind of know the theater people pretty well, so there were some parents who had to leave with younger children because of some of the content that was in the movie. And like I said, I won't spoil anything by telling you what that content is, but it's important to know, like I said, that I'm giving this a guilty rating and why. So again, I'm giving this movie just a 3.25 out of 10 on the deputy scale. That's if you really must see it. Wait for instant video, wait for DVD, Blu-ray, download. It's like I said, if you've ever been a fan of the original story, there is so much here that will upset you. So I hope that this will help save at least a few people, save a few minds, hearts, and kind of all of this, because you can't do something like this to such an iconic story, to such an iconic character, and just think it's okay. And I'm probably going to have Warner Brothers quite upset with me over this review, and that would not surprise me in the least. But that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about bringing this interrogation to you as I take these details in these movies and try to bring you the lowdown of it without giving away too much to where you lose interest. So if you have made it this far with me, I am very thankful. So thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe so you always get the latest and greatest Movie Deputy content. And I will be back tomorrow with another one for you. So good luck, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.